All right, so I like your genre thing. Let's do that with some terrible, shitty odds and ends. I'm sure, because the FTC trial's going on, and and yeah, I think that's a pretty competent show.
Competent show. That's on par. On
That's
par.
what we're going for. That's our great level. Competent show is like our is our A
Did you
plus
listen to
plus
the most
plus.
recent episode of Horrible Gaming Podcast? Yes, it was quite competent.
That's the greatest compliment you can give me. Seriously. I still don't even know how half the stuff works here that I use to make this. It's random when it gets through. All right, let's do it. Going in 3, 2, 1.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. You, dear listener, have chosen for whatever reason to listen to another horrible gaming podcast. I am not alone. Usually I'm never alone. With me is...
Neil, aka Tiny Wizard.
Yeah, there's the man with the plan. He came up with the subject matter tonight. No, it's not the Nintendo Direct, and no, it's not the FTC trial. Guess what? That makes me a happy pandy. Yeah, those are after. That's in the news segment. But before we get to all that, we need to thank the people who made this podcast possible. Behind our ugly mugs, you see a fancy custom graphic that was provided by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show, and most of the shows here at Old Man Gaming, is provided by the man who makes the music, my brother, Nick Van Sliders. We thank him for that. We'll be right back with Fan Interaction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our first segment, our most important segment. That's Fan Interaction. That's where we talk to you guys. We answer your comments, we read your comments out, all that stuff. First thing I'd love to do, but I'm going to have a hard time doing it because I got to do it via Discord, is Jason responded to the whole Master of Magic thing on Discord. He actually put a playthrough in there and the opening credits of it. It was a really, really old game that he used to play. Yeah, so that's what he was talking about when he made that comment. And I think and here he goes. He references it here. Master of Magic is an early 4X, which was basically Civilization, but magic-based. With you as a wizard and your people as a race, Age of Wonders is a spiritual successor. That's interesting. That's a spiritual successor. Age of Wonders 4 is amazing. I keep saying it. It's possibly my game of the year, to be honest. So, yeah. I love Age of Wonders 4. Continuing, Jason then goes, I never understood this 30/60 frames per second thing. People are always like, it's super noticeable. And I'm always like, I must be stupid because I don't notice. And I got to be honest, I don't notice either. I really don't. I think the frames per second thing is barely perceptible to the human eye. And I think it's a trick that technology companies and game companies have been using for a long time. They put bigger numbers at you to get you excited about something that really doesn't do you that much good. It doesn't.
So, 30 to 60, I definitely can notice.
Mm-hmm. Sure you
60,
can, Neil.
60 to 120, not necessarily so much. But guaranteed, if you were to set two identical things, one at 30 frames, one at 120 frames, you would very much see the difference in it. That also said, what is important to note is your display that you're playing on very much affects that. So, like, of course, if let's say you're running a game at 30 frames a second on a TV that can go up to like has 120 hertz refresh on it, let's say, you're going to see that game run at 30 frames. You're not going to be losing anything. But if you have that same game, let's say, just for the sake of argument, because it's more noticeable on 120, if you have a game running at 120 on a TV that can run at 120 hertz refresh, and then that same game running at 30 on that same 120 TV, it's very noticeable. That said, I don't know. I think it's just a personal benchmark for people at this point, what they expect to get out of their stuff.
I'm cynical. I don't want to get in a fight with you. I feel like you notice it because gaming companies tell you can notice it. I don't think anybody really notices it that much. I really don't. And aside from that, I don't think it changes the quality of play at all. I don't think it changes how much you enjoy a game or anybody else does, whether it's at 30 or 60 or 90 or 120 or a Google Plexel, whatever. I think they throw numbers at people to get them overtly excited about a thing that isn't really there. I mean, every advancement in gaming has been slowly, incrementally getting smaller. So they make bigger and bigger deals out of things that are now nearly imperceptible. And I think that's one of those things. They just love to play up the gimmicks. They love to play up the numbers. It's all part of the hype train game. All part of the hype train game, really, in my opinion.
I think it really only matters in certain games, truthfully. Shooters and fighters, basically.
I guess.
Like outside of that, if it's like an adventure game or anything like that, it's not necessarily the end of the world.
I mean, it definitely wouldn't matter in those. I think that, like, with even shooters and fighters, I think we're at a level where, like, they don't need to be any better to make you any better as a gamer or to give you any more enjoyment out of them. I mean, they were super fast in the last generation. I mean, they don't really need to be faster. They don't. And that's another thing that goes into, like, just gaming development as a whole is all about coulda and not shoulda. They dump huge amounts of money into these incremental changes. Then they put the price onto us, and they've got to convince us that there's a big change. They've got to convince us that it matters.
Yeah, I do think that there are some instances where the changes are a bit more incremental. Kind of what we've talked about before and / alluded to. Back in the day, a new generation of consoles was a massive thing. Like, they were bringing massive graphical and performance leaps, features, be it for online or offline play. I mean, now it is very much in a place that the technology has caught up to effectively like what the movies produce, graphically and everything like that. So now people are looking to different things to quantify, or in some cases justify what it is, a new console, a new generation. And like, everybody's different based off of what they expect, or truthfully, like you kind of alluded to, what we've been told to expect or want.
Yeah. I mean, and like, I look at the new console generation compared to, say, the 360 and the PS4. I don't see that many improvements. I mean, in fairness, some of the stuff that they did made some of the stuff, like, you look at, like, the Xbox S, right? The Series S. Like, in my opinion, objectively, from a utility fashion and a just overall fun fashion, that was a less superior system than anything produced in the last generation. Like, I would have much rather gotten an Xbox One S or Xbox One X way before I got a Series S. Just from the utility look, the 512 gigabytes, but no physical drive, which I'm all for no physical drive, but you can't only give us 512 gigabytes when 100 of it's used up by the fucking operating system, and then every game is like 90 to 120 gigs. And then like that kind of stuff, like, then all of them, we're going to utilize this SSD I don't see that much of a difference between the SSD stuff and before. Slightly slower load times, to me, does not equal a $200 increase in the amount of spending on a console. And I think that that's just one of those things that they're pouring money into these things. They've got to justify them to you. They have to get you to want them. So they just throw these graphical sillinesses at you to the point where I'm sure it's in the game. It's not going to make a difference to you. All it's going to make you do is have to buy a new TV. Like, that's what's going to have to happen. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, like, we're so far past the point where this shit matters anymore that it's obnoxious to me.
So, I mean, just because you kind of touched on it a little bit, we're getting ahead of the newsy sort of segments. But
okay.
One little nugget that that came out here recently was the fact that Microsoft considers the Series S their quote-unquote next-gen system, and the Series X their mid-generation console refresh. So
even though they came up at the same time?
Even though, yeah, they came at the
That's
same time, and the graphical improvements, not even necessarily graphical improvements, like the hardware improvements, are actually lesser than the Xbox One X.
Yep.
So they've already, like, to your point, they're just kind of saying, oh, well, you know, we gotta get a new console out there because, you know, X, Y, and Z. It's been somewhere about a decade. I think it's time for a new console because reasons.
And they're raising the price now, mid-generation. They're raising the price, and statistically on paper, the Xbox Series S is less of a good console as the console they discontinued from the last one. I think that, like this is the kind of stuff that, like, we're so far past the point where they need to make these upgrades. Like, there's no more upgrades that need to be made. But they have to keep finding ways to get you excited about things. So they show you these huge vertical slices on really powerful systems, well more powerful than the console itself that you're going to actually have, or the PC that you're going to have access to. And then they say, this is all coming from these, like, you know, FPSs and ray tracings and all these. And it doesn't really amount to that much difference in the things that you're actually enjoying playing. Like, it just doesn't. But they do this to hype you up so that you're willing to spend an extra $200 for a thing you just don't need. I mean, well, that's the gaming business right now. It's all about making you spend money on things you don't need or want. And then not giving it back to you. So continuing, Jason then goes, Starfield is an urban legend. Which is highly possible at this point. He then continues, Jason then continues and says, Dixie knows her food. What the fuck were we talking about? Oh, Dixie, Tennessee. Yeah, everything tastes better in Tennessee. Everything tastes better in Tennessee. I have no fucking idea why. Maybe it is Dixie knows her food, but damn, it's good. It's good down there. Like, everything. Even the bar food was just better. John Wick, like his actor, is an immortal and can't die, says Jason. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. They definitely kind of killed him, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Jason then continues, I don't care about games until they're out, which is why it annoys me so much when people constantly ask, when people constantly ask Undead Labs about State of Decay 3. Now, I'm gonna have a disagreement with you, Jason, on this one. I've been fully agreeing with you up until now. And this is probably Microsoft's fault. Microsoft, I'm sure, forced Undead Labs to put a trailer together for a game that they weren't ready to do because Microsoft has become notorious for this shit. But nonetheless, if you put out a trailer for a game, okay, you have to expect people to ask you about it on your streams, on anything else, whenever you're doing anything. That's what they're going to ask you about. They're going to ask you. I mean, the average people are going to want to know about the game that you announced. Like, at the same time, like, if they hadn't announced State of Decay 3, I'm totally with you. Okay, and Neil, just to give you some point of reference, because I don't know exactly that you know what we're talking about. I know you know the trailer, but like Undead Labs is very community forward. They have a live stream every week. They're constantly talking about the things that they're working on and stuff like that. But they're constantly being asked about State of Decay 3. Which sucks to be them, because I'm sure that they were forced by Microsoft to put that trailer together for that show. But at the same time, there's a trailer out there saying that they're making a game. Like, you're going to get asked, guys. I'm sorry. If they had never released that trailer and people were asking about it, that would be dumb. But you put a trailer out. You put it out into the world that you're making a third game. You've got to expect people to ask. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I do think... with that, I don't know if I want to necessarily give the gaming companies credit or wouldn't go that far, but I think it was 2019 when that trailer.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it might be a little bit later than that. I want to say
2019 because if I remember correctly, we were at your guys' place watching. It was at the Game Awards that they showed it.
Oh, was that at the Game Awards?
I think it was.
Might have been then. Might have been then.
Pretty sure.
I thought it had been at an Xbox showcase the year after that, but I could be wrong.
It's possible as well. But anyways, I've noticed that that's been less of a thing as of late. The whole now in development trailer, because that's about the dumbest thing possible. I hear you clacking away. Let me know. Let me know when.
I wanted to check because I was interested. It actually wasn't announced until September 2022. No, that's wrong.
Oh.
That's wrong. In September 2022, Xbox's Matt Booty confirmed that Undead Labs is working on it, but that's not when it was announced. I'm trying to find when it was announced.
But yeah, like we've gotten fewer and fewer of those. I mean, we did get, the Wolverine last year, the in development. We kind of got that with the Nintendo showcase. This happened. We'll get to that later.
It was 2020, by the way.
It was 2020.
2020 announcement trailer is when the trailer came out.
Okay.
So continue. Sorry to interrupt.
It's definitely I'm glad you looked that up because that's one of those things that would.
I mean, that's still 3 years.
Figured out.
That's still 3 years with no real words on it.
Exactly. And announcing that you're, making a game, an average normal dev cycle nowadays is somewhere from 5 to 6 years. So you say what, halfway through it, you're in the process of doing everything with it. Like that's not great because we all know how delays and everything are. Things are constantly getting delayed shortly after they make announcements. It's like the funniest and stupidest thing on the face of the planet. Well,
and I believe this was part of that infamous Xbox showcase that had just the one with Fable, this Outer Worlds 2, all of those ones that were just bullshit trailers that none of those game companies had even really started. It was just Xbox was like getting people excited. Yeah.
Worlds 2, though, they did it right.
Oh, they did. They're like, we're just going to make a trailer about not having a trailer. There you go.
Obsidian was like, all right, bet. And threw out just a joke.
I think Microsoft was in the shitter at that time, and they were like, we need a bunch of trailers. They went to every company and said, get us a trailer for a new game. And that's what happened. So I don't necessarily blame Undead Labs for this. But at the same time, if there's a trailer out there, you got to expect questions,
Right.
It's just the way it is. Jason then continues, Towerbone looks interesting. Hell yeah, it does. I'm super stoked for that one.
Super soaked for that one?
Stoked, motherfucker. Stoked.
I heard super soaked.
I'm wet. I'm wet for Towerborn.
It's funny because we just went to a 90s birthday party yesterday, so 90s things are kind of top front of mind.
Nice. William Hoon, hi! Exclamation point. John Wick 4 is definitely better than 3. My ranking of the 4 movies, the 4-movie franchise from best to worst is 1, 4, 2, 3. Having any kind of hope for an announced game you can't play yet is an ultimate road to disappointment. Thanks for the plug, and thanks for coming on my podcast, Zach. Cheers. Parentheses, Zach's chair should be considered a co-host. It is considered a co-host, 100%. And that's what Jason then responded directly to that one and said, Zach's chair is a co-host. What do you mean? And then William Hoon responded to that and said, the noise of the chair, I feel it should be included in the credits. To which Jason says, I agree, it needs a credit. All right, I'm going to explain the chair one more time. Okay, it's been a while since I've explained the chair, so I'm going to explain the chair, and I'm going to explain the noise of the chair. The chair is infinitely old. There is no date on this chair. It's impossibly to date this. I'm pretty sure it came out in the 20s somewhere. This chair was like something somebody stole from an office, and then my wife ended up getting it from a different office, and it ended up in her house. I have had multiple gaming chairs, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a big fat dude, okay? Big old fat dude. And I break these fucking chairs like they're swizzle sticks, and then I get stuck in a chair I can't sit in. This is the only chair that has lasted just constantly. It has been here, it doesn't break, it doesn't go away, and that's because I think it's heavier than me. It's like made out of steel, and it creaks because it's actually a metal spring that holds this thing together. The problem is, though, I have tried every form of WD-40 and grease on it to try and get it to not squeak. It squeaks through it all. I don't know what to do to make this thing not squeak, guys, but it is the only chair that my fat ass won't break. So the chair stays in the picture. Is all I got to say about that.
You know what you should try?
What?
I think I actually jokingly mentioned this before, because the chair has been a thing since like
Chair's been a thing.
5.
Chair's been a thing.
It's
Yepers.
been mentioned.
Yeah.
And it used to be a lot worse back when how we used to have to record everything.
Yeah. It's gone up and down. Depending on what I've been using to record. It's gone up and down.
You should try, legitimately, axle grease. I think that would work.
Oh, maybe.
To be honest, if axle grease meant for heavy-duty machinery can't solve the problem.
This is true. This is true. This is true. It's so old. It was at one point red, and it's like white with just flecks of red in it. Like, it is just the most old chair that exists on the planet. So
I remember when we were trying to get you to take the COVID chair.
To take the COVID chair.
You don't remember the COVID chair?
I feel like I should.
So this was back when COVID really started kicking off.
Right.
Somebody down the street got a new gaming chair. I went in the middle of the night. They had this thing thrown up by the side of the road. I went and grabbed it and wheeled it down the road. And I remember I was berated for grabbing this COVID chair because it was basically somebody's second hand. It smelled like smoke. And I just like wiped it down with ludicrous amounts of furniture polish and Febreze. And used it for a while. But then Kayla got me an actual gaming chair. And then from there, I had to get rid of that one, and I tried to get you to take.
That's right, I do remember that. It would break.
And
It'd break. I have no faith in chairs anymore. This is the only chair that I have faith in. It just is.
That's actually why I got the one that I have. I got one of the
super duties, right?
Secret Lab, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing was expensive, to be sure, but I got it. It supports up to 600 pounds. So, I'm not there yet.
Jason then continued, elsewhere in the U.S., they drive on the right side of the road. In Dixie, they drive on what's left of the road. Man, amen. It's Mad Max rules. The more south you get, it's crazy. And then Ohioan expresses Southern hospitality. Oh, Ohioan experiences Southern hospitality. News at 11. Funny. I've experienced, like, nobody's that nice to me up here, so it was new. And honestly, like I said, I think all the Southern hospitality is only possible because they're trying to murder you when you're on the highway. So I think no matter what, they're like that. I'm gonna be super nice to this guy because later I'm gonna try and kill him. All right. Well, that's it for fan traction, ladies and gentlemen. So our topic tonight of Neil's creation was we're gonna kind of pick out some games that have changed their formulas over the years for the better, maybe for the worse, and just like go from there and discuss that. Maybe even discuss some games that should change their formulas at this particular time. I mean, we're just going to get into it. We're going to have fun with it. And then, of course, we'll do the news, and I'll try not to hang myself on camera. We'll be right back!
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Brings us to our talking point, ladies and gentlemen. What games have changed the formula over the year for the better? What games have looked at it and be like, hey man, this ain't working, let's do this? Did it work? Did it not work? That's what we're talking about. Maybe we also talk about like what games should maybe change their formula. Maybe take a step back, look at what they're doing and go, this isn't right. Maybe fix something up. So, Neil, this is your subject. This is your baby. You came up with this one. You want to start us off?
Yeah, so, I mean, right out of the gate, I think I'm going to burn the one that I kind of used for you as an example.
Yeah,
I
go
think
for it.
Zelda moving to open world with Breath of the Wild was a good idea.
Okay.
Zelda very much always seemed prime for that open world. The fact that it was more of a linear experience never made a whole heck of a lot of sense to me. I mean, maybe back in the day, whenever, tech was limited, but Zelda's always been about, like, adventure, exploration, but for some reason you were always hitched along by, like, well, here are these main points that you hit in this particular order, and you must have this to do this, so you have to do this, so there's a very particular order that you have to do everything in. And then one day, they decided when they started, development for Breath of the Wild, it was just like, what if we didn't? What if it was just like large open spaces and you just do whatever the hell you want to do? I think that was a good change.
I think it was a great change. Look, everybody knows my feelings on Zelda, but as a whole, this was a good change. I think as a person who has played Zelda throughout the years, I've played Link to the Past, I played the original Zelda, one thing that always bugged me is the game was always on the edge of full open world. It was always there, because you could go to any castle. Just about. There was probably like one or two that were hidden by an item, but like you could go to any castle, you could find it and go in. But then you wouldn't be able to do anything there because you needed an item in the exactly previous castle, which forced this linearness, forced you to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, it forced it, whereas it would have been so much cooler if you had the castles and they would have been, there was a way to get through, like, you could potentially get through them without the item. The item just made it easier. With Breath of the Wild, what they do is they give you basically all the powers that you're going to get, that you would have gotten from Zelda at the beginning of the game. Tutorial, you go through the tutorial, all your powers are there. Anything else you get is like a little add-on, or it makes it a little bit easier to use or whatever. But they give you all that right at the beginning of the game, and they say, hey, go to town. There are some things about the open world that they did that I did not love. Number one, I thought it was a little bit of a waste that they made a big open world and they didn't make any of those cool dungeons. You finally made us possible to go to any dungeon in any order, and there's no dungeons. there's no dungeons anywhere in the game. And that was a little frustrating for me. But yes, I agree on a whole. I think that was the right decision, especially in the way that they presented it.
So what about you? What's one of the first ones that comes to mind?
All right. I'm going to go with my big one first because I really thought about this, and I have a couple that I want to say, but like the big one that I really thought about, I think people will be surprised about, and that will be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' decision to become a 2D brawler. And what a lot of people don't realize is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, is in no way, shape, or form a 2D brawler. It is
A side scroller, isn't it?
it is a platformer. It is a platformer on an open world map, where you kind of like you drive the first world. You drive your world around the city, and you find different warehouses. And then when you go into the warehouse, it goes to 2D, but it's like Mega Man. Like there's like jump ups that you get to, and little bad guys around that you have to hit. And then you can switch between the four turtles. And if one of the turtles dies, they're out until you can bring them back, and then you have to use one of the other four turtles. There's no lives. It's just whenever the four turtles die, they're dead. The game is notoriously difficult, especially for the second world, because you have to disarm these bombs. They're all underwater, and they're all timed, so you have to do a ton of swimming stuff, which on Nintendo is super fucking hard. But this game was not a 2D brawler, not in the way that people think of it. Or not in any way. There was an overworld map, there was side-scrolling elements, but there was no 2D brawling, the up and down kind of movement into the foreground and the fore and background. That stuff didn't exist until Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. They brought out an arcade game first in which this did this. Everybody loved the arcade game so much that they eventually somehow brought it to Nintendo in both a dumbed down and better version. So they brought it to Nintendo. It didn't look anything like the arcade game whatsoever. You can actually go play both versions in the Cowabunga collection. And the Nintendo version doesn't look anything like the arcade version. But the Nintendo version, to make up with that, they added like 5 or 6 different levels to it that just weren't in the original arcade. The original arcade experience was very short. It was only like 5-6 levels. But that game is one of the genesises for all 2D brawling for the Turtles. Like every hit game that you think of for Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, Turtles in Time, for me, Hyperstone Heist, now Shredder's Revenge, that all came from an initial decision after the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game to switch it to a side-scrolling brawler. And like I said, you can play all of these games in the Cowabunga collection, the original and the side-scrolling brawler, both arcade and NES versions, and it's really cool. I don't think, in my opinion, in my brain, I don't think there was a more successful genre switch than that one for a franchise.
Yeah, and I'd tell you too, like that there, like proposing something like that as a platformer or something, it doesn't really make a whole heck of a lot of sense.
Does it?
But when you take, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's all about beating up dudes, put them in a brawler, duh, it's a no-brainer. And the fact that somebody's brain somewhere went to platformer.
Yeah, it's very strange. Honestly, the platformer always kind of bugged me. I always looked at it like, this is weird. Even the bad guys you fight in it are kind of weird. You fight Rocksteady, but I don't think you ever actually fight Bebop. There's a couple of other weird inconsistencies in it that are just kind of strange. But still, yeah, that was a big change. I will say, I do want another change for the Ninja Turtles franchise. And they're never going to do this. But for me, I want like Spider-Man 2, full city, open world city, right? But you get to create your mutant animal from scratch from any mutant animal out there. Like mutate it as much or as little as you want, really in-depth character creation, and then powers that come along with it. You're getting all my money for that one. All of that. And even if you don't do that, let me play the Turtles in an actual ninjutsu setting. I mean, the Turtles were actually very, especially if the original comics, they were very stealth oriented. They were actually ninjas. They climbed around, they jumped from building to building, they hid in the shadows. The 2D brawlers don't in any way, shape, or form simulate that. I'm not knocking the 2D brawlers, guys. They are awesome games. They are some of my favorite games of all time. But I'd love to see a Ninja Turtles where I can sneak around, climb walls, kind of run through the city. That would be really cool.
I mean, we'll see how it shakes out, but I think we talked about this a little bit. I mean, it sounds like with this rumored Last Ronin that they're doing.
Yeah.
Some of that, but we'll see.
I think we're going to end up in a little bit more of a very narrative focused, story-driven sort of thing. But I will still be first in line to play that one, definitely. So, what's your next one, man? You're going through these kind of fast.
Well, I have a couple too. So
Okay, yeah, I do too.
It's definitely. So one that did not work out so great.
Oh, goody. Goody, a failure.
So this one, I'm going to classify this one as a Street Fighter game because for all intents and purposes it is.
Okay.
Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Yeah.
And their loadout system that they
Yeah.
had with the gems.
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
It was a very weird sort of situation. So for those not in the know, you got to make loadout sets with these gems. So they would grant special like perks and buffs, but they were also staged in some cases. So let's say like there were some normal ones that were just like, okay, you get a flat, 10% damage reduction or something like that for all the hits that you take, or a standard 5% boost anytime you hit with like a hit. But there were also some to where it was like, if you manage to get a combo that's at least 6 hits, from there on out you're going to get a permanent 10% damage boost, and then from there, if you manage to do the same thing again in the same round, they give you an extra 10%. I like that they took a chance, but
Sounds like a cool idea.
it's a cool idea,
Right.
But in a fighting game, a couple different things for that. First, those were in ranked play. So anytime you do anything like that, especially with a fighting game, you can't implement custom stuff like that in a ranked match. Even with Street Fighter 6, your custom created character, while you have your own stats, it's just for shits and gigs. It's not ranked play. So there would be people, there were very much win combos. If you had it, basically straight up and down, you win. There were some that gave you auto block for shit's sake. So there were win combos. It also put people in a position to fight in a very strange and bizarre way that was antithetical to everything that the game was. So you just have people like, if you're playing a fighting game and you're familiar with fighting games, you do not want to be jumping like an idiot constantly because you're 90% of the time wide open when you're jumping. So there were some that like incentivized if you jumped and landed heavies certain number of times in a row without getting hit, you get it. So like if people had a specific thing that they wanted to do to get specific buffs or a chain of these gems to go off, you would just see them bouncing around like frickin' idiots all over the screen, not actually like trying to do anything other than just the same thing over and over to get these buffs. It was like we said, it was a good idea, but there's very much a reason why that system got abandoned. While we have other systems like EX moves and focus and everything like that that have been implemented from earlier titles in the series and are still in the games today.
I don't like that you can't do custom stuff with ranked play. I don't know why you can't.
So,
I mean, card games work on
like,
ranked play. Everything works on, like, I don't understand why that doesn't work on ranked play. I hate the idea of, like, being forced to learn a specific character, period, and I can't do anything build-wise with that character, even the moves. Like, that just, like, that's just, like, I understand what you're saying, because, like, people could outbalance it, but I feel like that's on the game creators to balance their shit correctly. If you're going to implement a system like that to make sure that you don't have something in there that's broken with something else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's on them, not necessarily on the idea of the thing.
And it's just to lightly touch on that there a little bit, like it kind of doesn't make sense with Street Fighter 6 to some degree because there are limiters in place. Kind of when we were talking about whenever I played that demo, I picked up the full game. At some point I'll play the full game, hopefully within the next week here or so. But when you do your custom created character, whenever you create that character, your physical attributes change your stats, but there are limitations to that, to where, like, basically you could make an invincible character if you built them out correctly.
Right.
So, I mean, at that point, like, they've already tried to put those guardrails in place to say, well, if you go beyond this point, it's just strictly cosmetic. It doesn't physically do anything for your stats.
Right.
And then it allows you to just make it to where it just maxes whatever stat you're looking at. So, I mean, they tried to put those guardrails in place, but yeah, the fact, maybe it's...
Well, and if you have those guardrails in place, what's the problem with letting them go
right
online? And it's one of those things. I don't have a ton of experience in 2D fighter sort of situations, so I will completely admit that I'm out of my depth here. But, like, I feel like you put the right guardrails in place, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, or it might make more fun for other people. I definitely would be more inclined, should I ever get that game in the future, to jump into rank mode if I could do it with the character created instead of, you know, Blanca or whatever. You know, I feel like that they're kind of missing a step there almost.
I think they'll eventually... I do think that they'll eventually put something in there for it, because the Street Fighter games are very well known at this point, like updating, adding
Right.
features and stuff. Maybe it'll be when they do the Street Fighter 6 Arcade Edition version, but who knows?
Who knows? Right. So my next one then, right?
Yeah.
I gotta remember which one I was gonna do. Well, yeah, okay. The next one. This one's no surprise to people, but Sonic Frontiers is an open world. I think it worked incredibly well. I think they finally pulled it off in a way that was well, and I think that, let's face it, Sonic has been suffering from staleness for a really long time. And I know a lot of people are excited for the 2D game, for the 2D Sonic. I am not saying it's going to be bad at all. But I don't think you could just make 2D Sonics as like a flagship mascot platformer anymore and stay relevant in our current market, basically. I just don't think that that's the way to go. I think they're cool games, but like you're never going to compete with the Marios and the other ones without, doing something new. And everything they tried that was new was half-assed and knee-jerk. Until Sonic Frontiers, which is a crazy game. It's all over the place, where I kind of feel like sometimes when I'm playing it that it was like, okay, we need to do something new. Well, why don't we just do all the things in it somewhere? Let's just do every one of them somewhere in the game, throw it at a wall, and it creates this very crazy experience. That kind of worked. But I think the idea of just letting Sonic run around a 3D open world, bounce off stuff whenever he wants to, was really cool. I also think that they did a really good job of kind of slowly always pushing you towards the goal of the thing, even when you're just running around. Whenever you're just running around, you're still collecting a heart. You're collecting some sort of token that's going to get you closer to the end of the stage and the Titan fight. Even when you're just running around, running into things, beating people up, you're collecting a gear, collecting a key, collecting a heart, collecting something that pushes you towards the goal. And this was a really smart move for a Sonic game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I will agree. Even with my little bit of gripes that I had when I was really playing it here at the beginning of the year, it definitely was a good move in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, because we're talking about Sonic, I'll kind of shoehorn this into one of the other ones I had on the list.
Okay.
I actually honestly think Sonic's first real jump with Sonic Adventure into 3D was something. Because, I mean, yeah, sure, there was Sonic 3D Blast.
God, that game was bad. Whoa.
It was bad. It wasn't even actually like, it was Traveler's Tales. It wasn't like actual like Sega-ass Sega, like they were involved, but it's an isometric thing, isometric 3D platformer, not good. But yeah, that move, the first time, it was I think we forgive that game for a lot of things because it was that first push into the 3D, space. And they decided to even take like the idea of a almost semi-open world, like the hubs and everything like that.
I mean, semi. I think that it's
Yeah.
true open world. You're looking at Frontiers as the first one, but Sonic Adventure was definitely the first successful foyer in a 3D. And yeah, Sonic Adventure. You go back and play it, and trust me, I have recently gone back and played it with my daughter on the Dreamcast, and I mean, it was a different era of gaming. It gets a lot of gripe right now, but you've got to remember that back then they didn't do 3D very well. The Dreamcast was pre-PlayStation, so like it was a tough place to be a 3D game, and everybody's like, Mario 64. Mario 64 is kind of rough if you go back and play it. So it's not just. And Sonic gets the gripes because of like the weird voice lines and the facial animations. But you got to remember, nobody was doing facial animations on games back then. Everybody's like Mario 64. Mario 64 has no facial animations whatsoever in the entirety of that game. It is just still pixels, and that's awesome. I'm not saying Mario 64 is bad. It's a great game. I'm just saying that Sonic Adventure was trying something. They were trying to like tell that kind of narrative a little bit more actively than like Mario 64, and I give them a lot of props. That game is still fun to this day. I still enjoy playing it. It still kind of captures the magic of Sonic, and it does have its bugs and its glitches. And Sonic Adventure 2, chef's kiss, as far as I'm concerned. I still love that game. I love Shadow. I'm a Shadow fan, unabashedly a Shadow fan. The back and forth throughout that game was amazing. So yeah, I loved Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. Loved it. The music, it's where the butt rock comes from. There's no butt rock. Everybody equates Sonic to butt rock. All started with Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. There was no butt rock before then. It was just normal bleeps and bloops.
Did I can't remember if I told you. Did I tell you that I have the Sonic Adventure 2 official soundtrack?
Oh no, that's awesome. It's on my
somewhere too.
It's on my Spotify, like the entire thing. I listen to it regularly. I have a best of Ubi. What are they called? There's something 40.
Crush 40.
Crush 40. Thank you. I have their best of, which is literally just Sonic songs all the way down. It's great. But yeah, so yeah, I agree with you, and I think Sonic Frontiers also did something that I haven't felt since Sonic Adventure, which is I'm excited for a sequel to Sonic Frontiers. I haven't been like excited for a sequel to a Sonic game in a very long time, and now I'm actually excited for a sequel like Sonic Frontiers 2. I'm like, okay, I can't wait. That's going to be exciting,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are in the same boat.
Yeah. So your next one, man.
One that did not go well, and this is a continuing car crash, car fire sort of situation. So while this one is not necessarily the one that was the worst, I think it was the one that started it. Super Paper Mario. So, Paper Mario, of course, turn-based RPG. You had Paper Mario for the 64.
It was amazing. Amazing game on 64.
Amazing games. That said, with Super Paper Mario, they were like, we want to change up the... So they turned it into an action RPG that was level-based. So you had zone through, but Mario and other characters would level up. But you would play as it would be a side-scrolling, or depending on if you like flipped the controller around, would turn it into like a 3D-ish 2D situation. That was like the whole big mechanic. But the crux of it is they went that action RPG. So no turn-based battles or anything. When you got in a boss fight, you would just repeatedly bounce on the heads of enemies over again and just like not get hit. So then from there, I believe they tried to do, what was it, Paper Mario Sticker Star, to where it was Color Splash.
Yeah.
Color Splash, it was not even. I honestly don't even know what Color Splash was. It's actually regarded as one of the worst, right next to Sticker Star. Sticker Star, you get your attacks are consumables. Then we did the Paper Mario Origami, the Origami King that just came out a little bit ago.
Right.
It's a weird turn-based but dial.
I do not like that
system.
Origami King, man, at all.
So.
And why are all the bosses weird fucking art equipment, man? Can I just have like a Shy Guy or something? I gotta fight a stapler at the end of every level? Like, it's fucking weird, man.
I really want to know what Nintendo's thinking, because like they're actively ruining the franchise. Because the first two games were so highly regarded, still are so highly regarded. In fact, everyone and their mother thought that we were getting a remake to Thousand Year Door announced at this Nintendo Direct. Found out it was something else. We'll get to that later. But from there, it's just been like a new thing every single time, and there's no consistency. You don't know what a Paper Mario game is.
Right.
And I don't know why they're doing it this way, because that's the thing is, like, are they trying to get people to be morbidly curious enough to drop $60 on a game to just see?
Right.
Like, I don't know what their deal is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in agreement with that. I feel like they change their genre every time they come out with a Paper Mario game, and it hasn't been good since the first one, honestly. I mean, Thousand Year Door was okay, from what I understand. I never really got to play it, but like, nothing quite equals that first one for me. I think that was the true follow-up to like Mario RPG, honestly. And I liked Mario RPG, which I'm sure is in somebody's news at some point today. So my last one is another good one, but a smaller change that might not be noticed, and that was Undead Labs taking State of Decay 2 to procedural generation and relying on procedural generation. So the first State of Decay, all the characters were handcrafted by the developers. I think except the character you played, your first character. I can't remember. But either way, they were all like people. They were people that you met and that you were trying to survive with. And they could die permanently, just like in State of Decay 2. When they decided to make State of Decay 2, they decided they wanted to make the story more about the player and where the player was going with it. So what they did, and a more unique experience for the player. So all of your characters in State of Decay 2 procedurally generate when you create them, when you create your game. I think that was a really smart choice, in my opinion. It really creates this, like, how are you going to survive the zombie apocalypse kind of feel to it. And it really also attaches you to your characters in a way that I don't think, and no offense to narrative games, but I don't think narrative games can truly do. Because a narrative game, those characters are, everybody's playing Nathan Drake. You die, somebody else lives at that part. Like, everybody's playing Nathan Drake. With State of Decay 2, the characters that spawn in, they're your character. That's it. And they don't exist anywhere else. They're in your hard drive. It attaches you to them so much more, so that when those characters die, it is earth-shattering. And trust me, as a player who has been streaming State of Decay 2 for, I mean, I've recently stopped, but like something like 3 years. I had a character from Stream 1, Nanda Shiri, move through all my streams. She recently died. Like, it was heartbreaking. Like, you feel attached to these characters. And you feel attached to them in a way that I don't think normal narrative games do. And I think that was a really smart move.
Yeah, that is one thing. Like, I know you and I are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to this procedural generation stuff. But
I don't know if we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. You definitely seem less for it than me, but you definitely like procedural generation in a lot of places.
Yeah, it depends. Like, I don't hate it. Absolutely not. I don't hate it, but like, I much rather, like, if I'm told that there's a game with lots of procedurally generated elements that can be like infinitely replayed, whereas like it's a larger game but it's all handcrafted and has an ending point. I definitely would pick the latter of those two.
That's fair.
But I will say, with the procedural generation, like you said, like in those sorts of situations, you know, if you're playing a game for an extended period of time and literally like the people that you know, are interacting with in the game are one-offs, quite literally, and if they're gone, they're gone. There's no reloading of a save to save them or anything like that. It definitely puts a different spin on everything, for sure, especially when they're around for a while.
Yeah, it gives you that zombie apocalypse feel, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think that, like I tend to be on the opposite side of that just because I don't want to live in somebody else's world. Like, if I'm playing games, it's an escape. I want to live in a world that's completely unique to me on that spectrum. And the minute somebody tells me that there is no procedural generation and it's all handcrafted story, I'm like, well, it's their story. Like, that's what I'm playing. It's not my story. I'm not going to get as much agency over it. So I'm always going to be more excited about the more agency. That being said, this just presents that like level of like real attachment to your in-game characters that like I don't necessarily think a handcrafted narrative could necessarily give you. And I think that that's something that I really love about it and its change.
So I mean, from there, I only got one more. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. Good on time and everything.
Yeah. So the last one that I have is gonna be Metroid Prime. The move from the 2D side-scrolling adventure platforming game to a 3D platforming first-person shooter.
Interesting.
That's...
So you think Metroid Prime is better than the original Metroids, then?
No. That's the weird thing. It somehow made the Metroid games two separate series. I mean, they kind of technically are.
Yeah.
To where it's the same thing presented in two different ways. I'm trying to think of another game series that does that.
I mean, there's a lot of game series that do. I mean, Sonic's doing it.
Has kind of done it. Yeah, Sonic.
Sonic's doing it right now. They've got 3D and they've got 2D. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's weird, though, because I don't know that I necessarily consider it a move. I almost consider it like another game. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't necessarily move to 3D altogether. They're just like, we're also going to make 3D versions of this, you know?
Right. Yeah, and that's true. It's like, it kind of falls in a weird place here. Because they did only do the 2D games, but then they released Metroid 4, Metroid Fusion, and Metroid Prime very close to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
So you have two different Metroid games of two entirely different genres playing out. And then from there, they went the 3D route for a while, and then decided to go back for a minute to the 2D stuff.
Yeah.
And now we've been kind of ping-ponging back and forth, at least it seems so far, with the Metroid 2 remake, and then we had Metroid 2 remake, and then we had different Prime games, the Federation.
Yeah,
Force,
it's weird because I wouldn't have, and this is no offense to you at all, I would have never put this on my list because of the fact that I consider it almost like a spin-off or a side, like a side thing, because like all the games that I chose were games that like they were this thing. Yeah, they were this thing, and then they became this thing. Although I guess Sonic does fit into that, and I said Frontiers, but like, I don't know. It's weird, and I'm like I said, I'm not knocking you. I just never would have considered that the thought, especially since they went back to Dread recently. You know? Yeah,
exactly. Well, that's the thing is like, it was one of those things to where I don't know if you've ever seen any sort of history about like Metroid Prime. Everything about Metroid Prime was not supposed to work. Like, the entire development process, it was supposed to be an entirely different game, completely different than what Retro was going to do, and then by a chance encounter with somebody at Nintendo. They're like, hey, that'd be a cool Metroid. You guys want to do a Metroid game? And like, the development was an absolute nightmare because they didn't know what they were doing. They were
Right.
developing for like a third-person action shooter game, and then they had to completely overhaul. The management didn't know what they were doing, everything like that, and it came out and it was like, holy shit. In fact, there's I've talked about it before. There's a video series I watch on YouTube called What Happened, and they did Metroid Prime as one of the ones. Check it out if anyone's interested, because like it's absolutely like the story of that game is crazy. So then Metroid Prime comes out and it's very well received, and everyone's like, well, what about this? There's more of this. And they did that for a while, but because they weren't intending to make that move permanently, I think it was a thing that wasn't even supposed to happen.
Right.
There's still the dual appetite. It's like something like it made the move out of necessity or happenstance, but it still can continue down the same path. It's
Right.
weird. It's hard to classify it.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, so let's finish this off, but I want to know one game series that you think would benefit from a move, and to what?
Man, that's tough.
Eh?
Because back in the day, I would have said Final Fantasy.
Mm.
But now they've already made the move that I would have suggested.
They were almost on my list to switch
Yeah.
just from their
They did
combat
too.
system
Did almost
to
make
the
my
newer
list as
combat
well.
system. Yeah.
That's the one that I would have gone for overall. I don't know. There's none that I have immediately that have.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Castlevania is ripe for a big switch. I think an open world with it would be really cool. I know there's a lot of like purist Castlevania fans out there who would be like, "No!" And I get that because I am a purist Castlevania fan as well, but I think that world is so ripe for like that.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's just perfect for it that it could be really easy and fun to do, especially if you put a lot of character customization into it. So you could make your Belmont the way you wanted to make your Belmont. Ooh, that'd be a lot of fun. So I think that one could benefit for it. I mean, Castlevania needs to start making games again to do that, but
Very true.
yeah.
The only one that's kind of coming to mind is like F-Zero. I
I don't know what
like-
you change that to though.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't know as if it would be necessarily a change into something else. I think it would be more of an evolution. Because if you like, this is kind of like deep cut sort of situation. So some people may be completely.
That's fine.
But like, the world of F-Zero, like Captain Falcon's a frickin' bounty hunter.
Right.
There's something there. Like, it's a very like dirty, seedy sort of scene. All of these races are like, it's like a Jabba, like Jabba the Hutt, you know, could be like overseeing something like this. How it's
Well,
like,
give me some character customization. Let me customize my fucking vehicle. Oof, I'd be in for that.
They did the vehicle customization. They did build your own vehicle in F-Zero GX.
Oh, okay.
To where the pieces that you put on there actually affected the stats of the vehicle.
That's cool.
But yeah, no, a character creator, I don't know. I think it would be great to have some sort of open world, like almost like Horizon, like Need for Speed Horizon, or not Need for Speed Horizon. Forza Horizon. I don't know why I said Need for Speed Horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Forza Horizon.
Yeah, that'd be
To where
cool.
It's like, it's an open world, and there's racing, but there's also bounties.
Yeah.
To where you could, like, let's say, hunt somebody down in the vehicle, and like you crash them to collect their bounty or something like that, and maybe you could even do stuff outside of the vehicle. I don't know. I feel like that is something to where like maybe you have like in-game currency and you can like bet on races in the game
Yeah.
or something like that, and then buy parts for your vehicle. I feel like F-Zero, there's already an appetite for that series to come back. But if it does come back, Nintendo has said before even about F-Zero. If they make another F-Zero game, they have to have a reason for doing it outside of, just making another one. Because honestly, Mario Kart 8 has kind of taken that over at this point. The zero-G racing with crazy tracks. So, I mean, I think that if they're looking for a change, that would be something that would be good for them.
That would definitely be something that would be good for them. And I'll go ahead and call it out. Nintendo needs more adult properties. They always do. They're always short on the adult kind of themes and situations that people like. So that could be something that brings it up a little bit, brings that age level up a little bit, which would be nice. All right, let's get into the news. We're going to take a quick break, get into the depressing super news, and then we'll be done.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Brings us to our final segment, ladies and gentlemen. That's the news. That's where we take the headlines from the last week in gaming, and we let you guys know about them. We riff about them. We just talk about all the wonderful things happening in gaming. I have 4. Neil has 3. I'm gonna start with. Oh, they're all shitty. I'm gonna start with the first shitty one. FTC trials are going on right now for Activision Blizzard, the Activision Blizzard Microsoft merger. And just, I'm going to tell you right now, the comments coming out of Phil Spencer's mouth are just the biggest, the largest amount of bullshit. It just blows my mind when I read these comments, to the point where the judge in the trial actually had to remind him at one point that he's under oath, which made my day. Yeah, Phil Spencer was saying that he's going to do everything in his power to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation indefinitely, and the judge of the trial was like, I'd like to remind you you're under oath.
Yeah, I remember reading that headline. I was like, are you fucking
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I really wish I knew how he reacted to that. I almost wonder if it was like a, oh, yeah, like he even believed his own bullshit, or if he was like, oh, wait, fuck, like
No, he doubled down.
To what I say.
I read the article, he doubled down. He said, yes, definitely, I'm going to do everything in my power to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. But the big one is all this crap about how Bethesda was going to pass up Xbox if Xbox didn't buy them. Have you seen any of those headlines?
So that I did not hear.
The whole thing, Phil Spencer under oath basically said we had to buy Bethesda, because if we hadn't bought Bethesda, the Indiana Jones game and Starfield would not have come out on our Xbox system. They wouldn't have made it for us. That is an insane thing.
I had seen about that Starfield and Indiana Jones could have been on PlayStation 5. I didn't see that part of it.
But they were saying that it was going to be there exclusively if he hadn't purchased them, which is insane. Bethesda has been making cross-platform games for, 10 years now? 15 years now? Like, they would have been on both systems. The idea that they're going to pass up one of the systems just because is insane. And the idea that Microsoft had to purchase the company. And something else I just want to point out to everybody out there who is just on top of Phil Spencer's penis and Microsoft's penis, because there's a lot of you on Twitter. The FTC trial is not about whether or not Microsoft was in a position of power beforehand, or was in a position of weakness beforehand. The FTC trial is about whether or not Microsoft will have too much power after the purchase. The fact that they were going to pass them up and then they purchased them, honestly, in my opinion, speaks to too much power, because that means that they could just shell out money to buy their way out of any. Oh, you're not going to put the game on our thing? Well, we have enough money to just buy you. Like, the FTC trial is not about whether or not PlayStation is good or bad, or whether Xbox is good or bad. The FTC trial is to decide one thing, and one thing alone, and that is whether or not Microsoft owning Activision influences the market in a negative way because they will own too much properties. And it does. Period.
So, even that there, like, his statements,
It's
I
insane.
don't know if I fully trust
Not even remotely.
that, because think about it. Starfield had been in development for, like, fucking ages.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, you know, when the proposition for the purchase was made, this purchase went through, what, 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Starfield's been, at least was officially announced, 5 years ago
Mhm.
at this point? So they either were never developing for Xbox at all, and they just started building the game recently,
Mm-hmm.
or they had an Xbox build that they were literally about to throw away.
Yep.
I think it's positioning and dick waving.
Yep.
Is what that was.
It's 100%.
I do not in any realm believe that either Phil is telling the truth, or if Todd Howard / Bethesda really was going to be sticking to their guns on that. If
I
it was
don't-
more so just a threat to try to make them get purchased.
I don't believe. Yeah, I don't believe it at all. I mean, the other thing is too. What we also just heard, because this is all in one. I just titled Bethesda bullshit. There's one more, and that is that they have now come out to say that if Starfield was going to come out on PlayStation 5, it would have taken way longer to make. Have you heard that?
Yes.
They're like on record as saying, "Oh, well, it's not on PlayStation 5 because it would have taken way longer to make it." The idea that they weren't, just what we were just saying, the idea that they weren't developing this actively for PlayStation as well as Xbox with the amount of time that they've been working on it is asinine. There is a version of PlayStation that the minute Bethesda bought them went in the crapper. And the only reason it would take longer for them to make is because they haven't been working on it the amount of time that they've been working on it for Xbox, which is about, what, like 2 years now? A year since they got bought? I can't remember, but like
something along
the minute they got purchased, they tossed that version in the crapper at Phil's request, or at their own request. Who knows? They were immediately like, we're not going to make that one anymore. That's the idea that they weren't working on both before they got sold is stupid. It's just stupid.
Yeah, and like other things that have come out from this, since we're just kind of touching base on one of like the major things that's happened in the news. There is that whole positioning of, oh well, you know, if this deal goes through, we're not going to send PS6 dev kits out anymore. Like, bitch, stop.
Stop.
Like,
Stop.
even still, like, 100%. Like, even if this goes through, if it goes through, and Microsoft is like, yeah, we'll play ball, which, I don't think so. But still, if they decided to have all this stuff and go through, you'd be just shooting yourself in the foot by intentionally being like pouting, taking your ball and going home, and say, you know what, fine, you don't get dev kits then, so you can't make any games at all for. So not only would you be not having exclusivity or, you know, the third party access that you would have, but actively bar yourself, not from another company saying, no, we don't want to make a game for your console, by you saying, no, I won't provide you the tools
Right.
to make a game. This whole thing, this was the part of this whole fight that I was waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is where we get the juicy bits, and we find out who is just waving their dick around and
Yeah.
who's throwing temper tantrums.
This is the divorce of a couple
Yeah.
that's been together for 15 years with 6 kids. This is what this is. This is the ugliness of that. Like, it's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Your turn. Finally.
All right. So, in other what the fuck news, E3 2024 and 2025 have officially been canceled according to the LA Tourism Authority, but the ESA has said nothing's been confirmed for canceling beyond 2024. What the fuck is happening? Haven't we decided this already? Are we exhuming corpses now? Is that what's happening? Because that seems what you're trying to do.
I think we as a people have decided it, and ESA it just doesn't want to admit it. Is all it is. They don't want to admit that summer gaming is the new E3, which honestly I don't want to admit it either. ESA, yours was better. You just did it stupidly, and they did it not stupidly, and now you don't have one, and they do.
Yeah, I feel like after this year's summer show,
it's done. Yeah,
they've successfully proved that we don't need any sort of E3-like thing. As sad as it makes my heart.
Well, I'll correct you. We need it. It's just they don't need to do it because we're not upset enough about it. We need those people on the floor. We need those developer demos. We need those. We're not going to get those. So we're just going to get Summer Game Fest by the shills that are IGN. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All right, I'm going to save this one because I think I might steal yours if I use it. So I'll save that one for last. Okay, so we'll just go right into some more Starfield bullshit. I just want to point out, coming off what we were talking about last week, where I was saying I don't feel like they have everything that they promised in there, Todd Howard has now gone on record in saying only 10% of the planets, those 1,000+ planets that you're getting really excited about, only 10% of them will have any sort of life on them whatsoever. Yeah. So you can land on any one of those 1,000+ planets, guys, but they're barren worlds with nothing on them. So only 10% of the planets in there, so like 100 total, will have any sort of life on them whatsoever. So again, just want to point out, we're already backtracking. And we're already using a feature that isn't a feature. If only 10% of the planets in Starfield have life on them, then you should not be advertising it as 1,000+, explorable planets. And I know that technically 1,000+ explorable planets is correct, but this is what they do. They get you on that hype train. They say a phrase like that. They say 1,000+ explorable planets. And somebody who is not looking at the info on the deep level, they immediately in their brain, what happens there? You know what I'm talking about, Neil? They get on that hype train and they put it as 1,000+ planets with stuff on it. It's not. It's 100 planets total tops that has anything on it. And I'm going to go ahead and say that probably 10 to 15 have interesting things on it, right? The rest is bullshit.
I honestly think, at this point, you're using procedural generation for a ton of things in this game. Like, they've basically said that how the procedural generation is going to work is there's going to be formulas to where there are going to be, caves or, bases or whatever on planets that will, be attached to those instances and how they are, where they are.
It's No Man's Sky. They've been explaining Hello Games as No Man's Sky for quite a while.
But why is it that you can't just procedurally generate creatures on these barren planets anyways?
Which is what No Man's Sky does.
Right. On top of this, truthfully, this game has been in development. They claim for, it was something like a quarter of a century whenever they first showed this showcase.
Yeah.
I think it's been a concept for a quarter of a century. I think it's been in active development for maybe a decade.
Yeah.
But at this point, there was no reason to, if it's something that would have improved the game and made it better, there is no reason to feel like at this point that we just need to shove it out the door to get it out.
Right.
Lord knows we've already delayed it over a year.
Right.
At this point, from the official release date that was announced for it. Why not slap a couple more months on there and do it up. I mean, they said that this is the least buggy Bethesda game that they've ever put out. I mean, I guess in comparison to having 1,000+ possible planets, yeah, 100 bugs as opposed to 50 in something the size of Skyrim is absolutely
What's
the least amount of bugs.
What's the benchmark of least bugs too? Like what's it like? Are we talking percentage of game? Because you've never made a game this big, so
Right.
I don't know. The other thing is too, like a lot of the stuff that they're throwing at us, a lot of the things, the buzzwords that they're using to get us excited. No Man's Sky already did this. They already did this. I don't know why everybody's forgetting about them. Like they haven't. Granted, No Man's Sky, there's a lot of things about No Man's Sky that I'd love that they added, and there is some stuff on the Starfield front that I wish No Man's Sky had more of, like, or at least if it's in there, like the relationship stuff and the interpersonal, like crewing your ship and whatnot. No Man's Sky does not really do relationships or that kind of role playing very well. There's almost none of it in there, whereas Starfield seems to, at least from the trailer, do it well. So, like, but at the same time, like, a lot of the stuff that they're using to get us super excited about this, I'm like, this is No Man's Sky. You're just doing No Man's Sky again. Like, and of course it looks better. It's fucking, 8 years after No Man's Sky came out. Like, so, yeah, of course it looks better. Like, you're just doing that again with more stuff in it. I don't understand why that's exciting. The 1,000+ planets, only 10% of them being habitable by life is insane to me, especially using procedural generation. When you fly to a new galaxy with No Man's Sky, 4 out of the 5 planets that spawn has stuff on it, has animals. Even if they're just walking around eating grass, there's animals there. Like, I don't understand, like, and their whole, like, counter to this was realism. They're like, well, that's about the amount that would have life in the Milky Way galaxy. And I'm like, that's fucking, so, I'm not an actual space explorer. Like, I want to play a video game. I want to see stuff on the planets, not just walk around deserts. It's fucking stupid.
Well, since we're already kind of talking about Bethesda and Bethesda shit, I'm just going to go right into
There's a lot of it in the news this week.
Yeah, guess what, guys? Elder Scrolls 6 is still 5+ years away. Officially confirmed, in fact, by, it was, Phil Spencer said it.
Yeah. Never gonna see it. Never gonna get it. Yeah, you want an urban legend there, Jason. Elder Scrolls 6 or whatever. That's the urban legend right there. Is that. And a lot of people are saying it's going to be, and then, of course, the shills at IGN were immediately like, well, we did this, and you should still be excited because that means it's probably going to be a launch game for their their next generation console.
Yeah.
Which they've said isn't coming out till at least, like, 2028. And I'm like, man, you want us to get excited for a console and a game that doesn't come out for 5 fucking years? Like, that's where we are as an industry. We're so far. I'm surprised they don't have pre-orders open for the untitled next-gen console and the untitled Elder Scrolls 6 so they could just get your money now. It's absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. All right. Still going to save that one just in case you have it, but this one's fun for me, not for anybody else. It looks like, and this is unconfirmed, I want to say that, this is unconfirmed, but a story has recently come out that the price of Game Pass is going up soon. That Game Pass Ultimate will be going up by a full $2. That the normal Game Pass will be going up by $1. But PC Game Pass isn't going up at all. It's staying exactly the same, not changing. Which I find kind of insane because PC Game Pass, and just for anybody out there who's only on console Game Pass, I get almost all the perks that you get if you're on Game Pass Ultimate just by being in PC Game Pass. So if you're on console to play any of the EA Play games, you have to have Ultimate. You have to have Ultimate. I get all the EA Play games just by being on PC Game Pass. The only thing I don't have access to are those stupid, like, chintzy offers like the free movies and the stuff like that. But I even get access to the points now. I didn't even realize I got access to the points before, but I get access to the points. So, like, there's almost, like, I get almost everything just on PC Game Pass, and that is not going up in any way, shape, or form. Ultimate, however, up by $2. Normal, up by $1. Again, this is unconfirmed. Nobody has an announcement for that. People are saying it'll come probably around Christmas. I think that this is going to hurt them if that FTC trial isn't wrapped up by the time they do raise the price. But yeah, that's the word.
I'm sure they're waiting to make the official announcement until after the trial, because it would be a bad fucking move to have that go through and be resolved, and then the very next major, and by the way, price hike. But overall, I mean, when you sent me this, I honestly, if this is what it winds up being, I will be very, very surprised if that's the only price increase that it's going to get.
I think $2 is a lot, man.
I mean, still overall, I mean, I've said it before.
Especially when you're raising the price of your console that's over 2 years, like over 2 years old. I think it's pretty messed up.
True. Yeah, the price of the console everywhere but the U.S. Same thing that Sony did.
Yeah.
It's going up in price because I'm quite sure that they've made the calculated decision that raising the price in the U.S. would not go over very well.
Well, and I think that like the real thing is because they also haven't started doing the whole trial in Britain either. So they've got 2 trials to deal with. They've got to do the FTC one. They've got to do the Trade Commission in the UK. And the Trade Commission like specifically references raising the Game Pass price as a problem that they have with the merger. So I feel like they literally cannot raise this price until they're done with all these trials and everything goes through hunky-dory. And I think that's why it's not confirmed yet. And I can't imagine that they're truly expecting to wrap both these trials in the next 5 months. Like, I just don't see that happening, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. All right, what's your last one, man?
So the last one is actually kind of a nice one.
Oh, good.
Guerrilla Games actually put a tribute to Lance Reddick.
Oh, I saw this.
There's a part where you can overlook the Hollywood sign. I believe that is in the Burning Shores DLC, if I remember correctly. I've not purchased that DLC, so I'm not 100%. But there is a part there to where there's a nice flowered area. And familiar with the game, you'll like lots of like contextual holograms on like box and stuff for like signs. Whenever you go over into that area, you'll actually just see a thing. It'll say Lance Reddick, and it'll be like some flowers and everything all over the place there. So nice little tribute to him.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. I hate to follow that up with a negative one, but like I said, all of mine were negative. And I thought you'd have this one. So Final Fantasy 16 is out in the wild. There was some crazy pre-orders with Final Fantasy 16, like really expensive pre-orders that were ridiculous. Yeah. One of the specific editions cost $350. It came with a lot of doohickeys and what's it and whatever, but it was a $300 pre-order. The people who ordered that $350 pre-order don't have access to the game. Apparently it was a oversight at Square that they're trying to fix. But yeah, can you imagine pre-ordering a game for $350 and it came out and they can't play it?
Livid. Yeah,
oh
I did
my
not
God.
see this.
Yeah,
I did not see this.
They can't play it at least. I don't know if they can play it by now because this was a few days ago. But yeah, the people who ordered this $350 pre-order could not actually access the game. Their keys did not work to actually get the game.
Would have been blowing.
You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me.
And they have to do something.
You've isolated your most loyalist fans. Yes. Arguably, your idiot fans. $350 for pre-orders is just insane. But Those people paid $350 and they cannot play the game. That's sad and stupid and ridiculous. But yeah, that's a thing. That was my last one. So you're done?
Yeah.
All right. Well, myself and Neil in the chair, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with plugs.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. That's the end of the show. Shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, would you like to plug anything?
Yeah. So, we're back. We did the thing. We're doing the Redfall Down, and it is just as absolutely spectacular as the first 3 episodes that we recorded. I was worried, not gonna lie, I was worried that when we started recording that it was not gonna have that same je ne sais quoi as the first 3, but oh Lord, does it.
It continues to be nightmare fuel.
It continues to be fantastic. I do have to ask, without any I guess spoilery sort of contextualization or anything, did you put pictures in?
Okay, so what Neil is referring to is Redfall Down on Saturdays. Our latest episode just went up. You guys like it. You already got 17 views, so they're going to keep coming. I did not put pictures in the episode. I just got too many things to edit to do that. Instead, I have a Discord thread on Discord. Every picture that we have posted to each other and mentioned in the episode, I posted there. All of them are there, with the exception, I think, there was one picture you took of a vampire that was like floating above you that wasn't noticing you. And you really can't tell anything from the picture, so I didn't put that in. But other than, like, that, it made sense to us at the time, but if I posted it there, I don't think anybody would have really realized. But everything else, it is on a Discord thread in our Discord called Redfall. I think it's Redfall Down Fails or something. I can't check it right now because I'm on here. But yeah, you could.
See. I should be able to pull it.
Yeah, it's in there. Every picture that you got that we sent back and forth. So what happens is there's so many bugs. Bug pics. Yeah, there's so many bad bugs that happen in that game. We actually take pictures, if you haven't watched before, just to show the other people because we can't see each other's bugs. And any of those pictures, we use Facebook Messenger. I downloaded all the pictures and I put them there. So any viewer, you can join our Discord and check out the bug pics there. But yeah, that's coming out Saturdays. We're going to continue that going on, since even though we took a week off, you guys have still already given it 17 views as of right now. So you guys are still watching it and enjoying it. As far as I am concerned, this week we'll have another, in addition to this podcast, we also do a tabletop RPG podcast, myself and Wizards Respite. We will have another one of those this Friday, if all goes to plan. I have my Getting Over show and Astral Drive this week. And then on the games front, OMGM is still going strong. We are coming close to our Season 2 finale, which we're very excited for. And then, yeah, we will have some more Prelude coming up this next week, I'm pretty sure, if I can drag Melissa kicking and screaming into the basement to record some more. So yeah, so just check out everything we have to offer here at the channel. We got a lot of stuff, TTRPGs and gaming. And then, yeah, little quick shout out. I hit... Old Man Gaming and Axiom Games hit 200 followers on Twitter, and I want to thank anybody listening to this who is following me there. That was really appreciated. That's a heck of a milestone, so I appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can contact us on Facebook at Old Man Gaming DH, on Twitter at Old Man Gaming 9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below. Influence this and all of our shows from there. As long as you keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. See you guys next time. All right, we're done. We're done. I need to fucking edit this before I go to sleep. You know, we're almost at 200.
Almost at 200. Oh, the episodes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, we're, like, right there. I think the last episode we posted was... Hold on a second.
I think it was an 80.
No, we're, like 3 away.
Oh, 95. Oh,
yeah, we're 95 was the last episode. So, yeah.
Anything?
I don't know. We've always done something for our... Well, like, we did something on the 100th, but... Yeah, I don't know what to do for it, honestly. I have no idea, but yeah, we're 5 away, so I have no idea what we could even do for it, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually,
I got no idea.
hold on. I want to take a look at.
Okay, go for it. Like maybe do a live episode? I don't know.
Well,
If this makes the show out there, what do you guys think we should do for our 200 episode? Let us know in the comments and in other places.
oh God.
Should we stream an episode? That'd be interesting. I mean, I don't know.
Oh God.
What?
Whatever we do, it can't be live.
Why?
Because the weekend that we would record that, the 21st through the 24th, we are currently set to go down to.
To Louisville?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So on our 200 episode, you're not even going to be here. That's good. We could always like pre-record it or do it on a different day
we can just
or something.
pre-record something.
I mean, technically, we do the show. The show's on Wednesday. We would be doing it on a Wednesday if we did it live.
oh, that's true.
Yeah, like we wouldn't be doing it on a Sunday if we wanted to keep the schedule correct.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's an option.
Well, like I said, I'll leave
have
this
about-
part. I'll leave this part in. If you guys are listening, we got 5 episodes to go. What do we do for our 200? Should we just do a normal show? Should we just let the chair do the whole podcast? You guys let us know on the podcast. What if that was it? It was just like a picture of my chair, and I just moved it back and forth and squeaked it for like an hour and a half.
The original co-host.
I suddenly want to do this. I'm a chair. I got shit to say.